Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. The weather system known as the bomb cyclone has spread its icy tendrils all over this country, plunging much of America into freezing or even sub-zero temperatures. Naturally, these severe lows are being presented to you as proof of course, global warming. We'll have more on that later. But first, Republicans in Congress are demanding an investigation into Christopher Steele. He's the author of the infamous Trump dossier that has dominated politics in this country for an entire year. Fox Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is all over this story, and she joins us tonight.
Well, thank you, Tucker. This case matters because it's the first known criminal referral from Congress as part of the Russia investigations. The Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, who has oversight for the FBI and Justice Department, along with his Senate colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham, believe there is a violation of 18 U.S.C., which is lying to federal authorities, commonly known as the Martha Stewart statute. According to the letter made public today, the senators believe potential violations for false statements relate to Christopher Steele's distribution of the unverified Trump dossier. A half dozen major media outlets were briefed before the election. Steele was on the payroll of opposition research firm Fusion GPS, whose co-founder is former journalist Glenn Simpson. In the months leading up to the election, Simpson told Steele to brief reporters at least twice after no reporters ran with the story. The project was, of course, funded by the DNC and Clinton campaign. Senator Grassley said the criminal referral is about a perceived double standard. Trump campaign associates were prosecuted for lying to the FBI, and the same standard should apply to others regardless of politics. Tonight, a senior Senate Democrat, Richard Blumenthal, called the referral partisan and said the Russia investigation was triggered by information entirely separate from the dossier. Tucker.
Catherine Herridge, thank you very much for that. Philippe Reines was a longtime advisor to Hillary Clinton, and he joins us tonight. So, Philippe, we've been doing this Russia story for more than a year. I paid pretty close attention. I keep a running list of things we have learned. This is a pretty complete list of what we've learned. Okay, so we've learned that Paul Manafort, kind of sleazy in his business dealings. We learned that Mike Flynn probably should have had a lawyer when he talked to the FBI. We learned that Donald Trump's aides agreed with their boss that we should change our Russia policy, that they called Russian diplomats, as is their prerogative. We learned that Russia bought $100 grand in Facebook ads and that RT is funded in part by the Putin government. I knew all of that before. Where's the collusion part that justified this whole exercise?
Well, that's the part that Robert Mueller is still looking at. And I don't know why looking at this a year is some kind of crazy long time. Look at Whitewater. Ken Starr took over 4 years to get that done.
Right.
Look at the Benghazi committees. Eight committees took 4 years again.
Is the Whitewater investigation, do you think, a model that you'd like to see replicated?
I think that Robert Mueller was picked for this job because of his dignity and because of his ability to look at the facts. He happens to be a Republican. He was picked by a Republican administration.
I'm not attacking Mueller. But look, and he is. You haven't seen this show call for him to be fired or anything like that. I'm more interested in the partisans who've been barking like dogs for the last year about how Russia's subverted our election, our democracy itself is imperiled, Donald Trump was in league with Russia. You know, if any of that were true, I'd be upset about it. None of that turns out to be true, and no one is admitting that they were wrong. It was all a lie. And someone should admit that.
There are two. I don't think that that's true. There are two things here. There is whether Russia meddled in our election, and there is whether Donald Trump's campaign had anything to do that. This is what Robert Mueller is looking at, the collusion part. Let's give him time. He's following the facts. He obviously found something. Mike Flynn, the president's first national security advisor, pled guilty. And not just because he didn't have a lawyer.
What did he plead guilty to? Hold on, slow down, stop. What did he plead guilty to? Did he plead guilty
to perjury?
He pled guilty to lying. Look, I'm not here to defend the impeachment of Bill Clinton or the Whitewater investigation. You lived through both of them, and I think they would have given you a keen appreciation for how far afield these investigations can go and the cost to the American public, not just financial either, to those investigations. So I guess that's kind of the point I'm making. If there's collusion, this whole thing
what about Benghazi? Benghazi went on for 4 years, 8 congressional committees, all held by Republicans.
Here's my point.
I don't remember anyone listening.
Look, I'm not here to say that the Benghazi investigation bore fruit. My point is...
So I've gotten 2 admissions out of you tonight.
No, but I've never said anything other than that. The charge here is that the Trump campaign colluded with a foreign government to subvert the democracy of the United States. That's treason. That is a charge that was repeated by a lot of leaders on the Democratic side in Congress, not just crackpots on the internet.
And Steve Bannon.
And maybe Steve Bannon, too. And There's no evidence of it. And isn't it time now for people to start demanding, like, shouldn't we have evidence to back up the outrageous claims that we made?
You don't know what Robert Mueller does or doesn't know. He's doing his job. His job is not to tell us it is just Mueller.
It's the entire American press corps.
No, but nothing else matters right now except for Bob Mueller. This is his job, is to get to the bottom of this.
Does it bother you? Look, in the end...
It bothers me that we won't give him the time and space to do his job.
He's had a lot of time and total space. I mean, he's had an unlimited budget. He can hire whomever he wants. He's under statutorily.
There's no expiration date on this.
Exactly. That's the point.
But people under investigation, targets and subjects, of course they don't like it.
But look, as an American,
you don't get to choose
who's lived through this yourself, would it bother you if at the end of this investigation you get people for crimes committed before the campaign, like Paul Manafort, or you get people like General Flynn, who got caught in a misstatement with the FBI and gets a perjury charge, but there was nobody charged for the core allegation.
So far.
Collusion.
So far.
Do you believe that someone will be charged?
I believe we're going to find out because we're going to give Robert Mueller the time, or he's going to take the time. And there's a difference between Manafort and Flynn and Papadopoulos. These guys, Flynn, what he did was immediately before the campaign and during the campaign. Papadopoulos was during the campaign. These are not 10-year-old charges like they are for Manafort.
The charges themselves, look, I'm not here. The Papadopoulos kid, the Model UN guy.
He's fetch kafiva for people.
I mean, let's be real, okay? Flynn was a real guy. He was a key foreign policy advisor to the president.
He was national security advisor for 23 days.
That's exactly right. And a key foreign policy advisor on the campaign. Papadopoulos had nothing to do with anything.
Okay, so let's focus on Flynn.
As you know. So, but look,
and Flynn pled guilty.
Is there any evidence to lying during an interview?
But it's possible that he has told the authorities
but is it possible
something more.
That he's done anything that is actually harmful to U.S. national security, to our traditions of democracy?
Yes,
what would
both
that
legally and otherwise.
I
think these guys are lucky that naivete is not criminal, because they allowed for a year the Russians to ping them time and time and time again to play them.
But did they
it's
do
almost
anything,
worse that they might not have realized that.
A single piece of evidence they did something substantially wrong. Not naive, not stupid, not ill-informed, but like, what was wrong? I'm confused.
I think meeting with agents of the Russian government to provide opposition research on a presidential candidate is probably not the most
really would it be
thing
up
to do.
There with paying money to a law firm which paid Russian agents for information on which the Hillary campaign
it would be up there with the Republican Party commissioning that report.
It wasn't the Republican Party. It was a
Republican organization.
Yeah, it was a guy who hated Trump, some hedge fund billionaire who didn't like Trump, and then the Hillary people.
Chris Steele, who is he's a renowned British intelligence agent. By the way, Grassley and Graham, this criminal, why don't they have him in open court?
Yeah,
have him in open hearing.
More information.
I think they might be afraid to hear it all.
Philippe, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.